Wonderful. And I will invite Mr. Ricardo Posas Garza to come on down and deliver our opening prayer.
Oh, it says it's on.
Do
It says on.
do we have a secretary?
Much love, Sam.
No sé.
I hope so.
Hello? In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Lord, we thank you for the opportunity to serve Our Lady's entrusted community. May we, members of the Student Senate, be servants of hope and instruments of great change. May we listen and lead with humility, kindness, courage, and love. May we develop a community that inspires all to engage in our daily vocation to be the truest brothers and sisters we can be. May we find the strength to finish this semester with courage and grace, seeking to protect both the physical, mental, and emotional well-being of both ourselves and those around us. Through our dedication, may we call this community our family and this university our home. We ask this through our Lord Jesus Christ, your Son, who lives and reigns with you and the Holy Spirit, one God, forever and ever.
Let's see. I don't believe this mic is on. Ricardo, could I borrow that? All right, thank you so much, Ricardo. That was a beautiful way to center us in prayer before we head into this finals season. So Aaron is really wearing all of the hats this November. He's served as chair, now he will be serving as secretary. And I will vamp for him to get up the roster for roll call. It's already up. Look how speedy he is. Yeah, oh, that's perfectly fine.
Sarah Galbensky, Dan Bowden-Diestel, Isabella Garcia, Daniel Schermerhorn, Sarah Kirsch, John Mansfield,
Here.
Christina Escajadillo, Dan Law, Anup Sankara, Michael Murakami, Jordan Leiden, Niels Casperson, Maggie Allen, Albertina Estrada Martinez.
Here.
Awesome. Madison Nemeth, Henry Jackson, Benjamin Earhart, Jason Thomas, Natalie Ortega, Molly Schrock, Elaine Teeters, Ahmed Al-Hassani, Alec Brayler, Bianca Burnett, Carson Thompson, Libby Messman, Anisha Jaypura, Michael Lynch,
Here.
awesome. Miles Kelly, Alex Kovalowski, Patrick Lee, Grace Franco, Teresa Salazar, Henry Bates, Blake Johnson, Johnny O'Meara, Renee Pearson,
Here.
Jordan Theriault,
Here.
Sam Canova, thank you, Sam. Ricardo Posas Garza, Connor Delaney, Rachel Ingle, Thomas Davis, Catherine Relic,
Here.
I think I'm here, Grace Stevenson,
Here.
Mairead Pfaff, Julia Dilhoff, Matthew Bisner, Estefan Linares, and Karen Kennedy.
Awesome. Well, I think this microphone is kind of working now. I think Aaron's tenure as secretary was short-lived, and we will now pass it over to Catherine for a review of last week's minutes.
Thank you, Aaron, for doing that. Last week, Rachel gave a State of the Student Union address. SO 2021-14, in order to amend the constitution of the undergraduate student body to revise the Hall President's Council, as well as SO 2021-15 to revise the Student Union Board were both passed. And then there was a presentation by Thomas Davis on the progress of the Committee on the Constitution and the Student Union Ethics Commission in relation with that. And that is all.
Amazing. Any questions, comments, concerns on the agenda from last week? All right, folks, seeing none, last week's minutes are approved, and we can transition to executive announcements. And I'll hand it over to either Rachel or Aaron for an update on our final student advisory group for campus reopening meeting of the semester, that we will be meeting periodically over the winter session.
Thanks, Rachel. And thank you to the chair. Let's see if I remember. Where did we start with campus reopening? We discussed, obviously, first and foremost, the serious rise in cases that we're experiencing right now. We were very hopeful and grateful, thank you, Sarah, that to hear that I believe we had 98% compliance on the surveillance testing over the past week. So most people actually ended up coming, which was very nice. We did talk a little bit on Father Jenkins' message to the university and student body, just discussing, where we are at, and trying to, frame things in a, I don't want to say positive manner, but, in a more constructive manner, I think. And we're really working on that, because this is an effort that everyone has to undertake to make sure that we can get through these next few days and obviously make it through until the spring. We did hear some really encouraging news on one of our long-term efforts on the mental health and mindfulness app. So the university is, working on this, and actually pretty hopeful that we will see something come from them soon. We don't know exactly which application it will be, but it's probably going to be one of the mainstream ones that you would probably recognize the name of. Obviously, they're in the process of getting the quotes and all of that, and hopefully making this available to all members of the Notre Dame community. We talked about election processing and what's been going on just on campus in that area, in that regard, which we have been, I'd say, pretty hopeful about. We're grateful to see that a lot of the terrible and unfortunate incidents that happened on our campus surrounding the 2016 election really didn't pop up as they did this year. So we're grateful to see that. We were talking about the big questions leading over the spring, leading into the spring semester, especially like trying to talk about the ways that we will gather together in community, which will be incredibly more difficult given the challenges that the weather will pose. But we are hopeful, and that we do know that the university is, trying to think creatively on the solution in case indoor dining at the dining halls maybe isn't an option. Again, we don't know for sure, but obviously things will be hammered out and, adjusted as we take a poll on where the pandemic is at the time of our return for the spring. We did also, again, raise the question or raise the petition of the pass no credit option for the fall semester. And this is something that the university, again, pretty much is not willing to budge on. We did speak with multiple members of the administration, as well as our director of academic affairs. And the task force that handles this matter pretty much unanimously rejected the petition. So it does not look like this will be happening anytime soon. But again, that's where we are on that, to give y'all an update. And lastly, the provost's office is trying to put out some messaging on encouraging students to think critically about the courses they're taking in the spring, think about the course load. We don't want students to overburden themselves in what's sure to be another difficult semester. So just trying to make sure that everybody is well prepared for what lies ahead. Aaron Huffman-Harding did inform us that we probably will convene at some points over the winter session and leading into the spring semester. Those meetings are not yet scheduled, but we will, of course, be present at those meetings and keep you all updated as we approach the spring semester. Yeah.
There's some rumors that like we might delay our return to campus or something like that. Is any like
That was not discussed at all, and at least from my own guessing, I wouldn't think so. But again, depending on where we are, things could change.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Aaron. I think that that announcement provides a perfect segue into both of mine. So in terms of Senate apparel, while we will not be getting our sweatshirts in time for Thanksgiving, when we come back in February, which is everyone's favorite month in South Bend, you will have a Senate sweatshirt to keep you warm. So that is something to look forward to when we come back. As Aaron was speaking to as well regarding class registration, when your registration slot comes up between December 2nd and 9th, please feel free to sign up for whatever your heart desires. Do not plan around Senate being from 6 to 7:30 on Thursday. I intend to do the same sort of doodle poll that I did over the summer, where once you all, have picked the classes that you are most passionate about, that you need to fill your major, your minor, general electives, prioritize your academics first, and then I will send out post December 9 a doodle poll where you all can indicate at what times you have academic courses and at what times you don't. And just like we did this year, we will try to find the slot that works best for most parties involved. I'm really hoping we can find a slot where nobody has to change their schedules going forward. But if we do, we will pick the option that the most folks can attend. So just wanted to put that on your radar as you guys sign up for classes. Beautiful. Okay. So those are our 3 updates for this evening. And without further ado, we can jump into general orders. And I will hand it over to Christine Garen Gebhardt. Thanks so much for being with us today. Assistant Vice President of Student Services, and she will be providing a presentation on Fighting Irish Care, which is a new 24/7 telehealth service for students that should be really beneficial over this long winter break. So I'll hand it over to Christine.
Thank you all. I became the Assistant Vice President for Student Services about a year ago. And one of the things that I heard a lot from students was the increasing need for you all to have access to care beyond the wonderful services that we try to provide by in the health and wellness units. And so what we started looking for was some extensions of our programs. And then COVID hit, and it became even more clear that in order for us to be able to reach you and serve you, we weren't able to do that across many states because of legal requirements of state licenses. And that was something that weighed heavy on us because we knew students were struggling, we knew students were sick, and we had no way to reach them across the federal regulation statutes. So we started looking at third-party telehealth options. The telehealth options that we are providing is a backup in case we ever do go remote again, that we want to be able to reach the student who is in California or who is in New York or perhaps who is in Florida. Second, we wanted to have the flexibility because we know that while there are students who came here to us over the fall, there are students who still remain back home for whatever reason that they needed to be there. And again, because of certain circumstances, they might not have access to services that we get to have here on campus. And then third, there's always the issue of when you all go home, you can have that continuity of care. How do we continue to care for you and to be there? If we can't be there in presence, how can we extend the care? And so we started working with different programs and selected a program that is run by or powered by Timely MD, and we call it Fighting Irish Care. Fighting Irish Care, how you can access it is you go.nd.edu/Fighting Irish Care. That is the main portal that will take you to 24/7 telehealth for students, graduate students, professional students, undergraduates at no cost. So a student would go on and create a profile, and you would then have access to a telehealth services for a variety of services for you. The beauty of this is the people who are serving are people who are student-focused physicians and counselors. They work in college health. And so what would happen is there would be, this is a demo video that I'm not going to show because of time, but you can use it on a computer platform as well as a phone platform. So there's a mobility to it based upon your access. If you go to go.nd Fighting Irish Care, you would click in to sign in or to register, okay? So you have to sign in, and it's only eligible for Notre Dame students. So we basically sent in an eligibility file of all of our students, and then they would have access to it. And then you would hit, once you log in, you would hit a chat for technical support if you couldn't get in. But once you're in, what you would do is create a profile. And once you have a profile, you then would get basically a tile of services. So this is what a platform on a mobile service would look like. You would get 3 tiles: medical, talk now, and coaching. And basically, if you need a medical person, if you've got flu, or if you've got a cough, or you've got something that you're like, you know what, I don't want to take the trek across campus, or I am all the way in Granger or Mishawaka or somewhere off campus, or perhaps you're in Florida over break, and you're like, I would like to do a telehealth rather than getting up and going to an urgent care. So at 3 o'clock at night, when you're not feeling well during exam week, you can go to this platform and you can connect telehealth face-to-face with a physician and be like, hey, this is something that's going on. They will connect back to UHS the next day and we'll have a continuity of care, but a doctor will actually assess you and give a diagnosis or a treatment path. So it's different from our current after hours where you're talking to a nurse who will give you good triage advice. But if there's something that they can't handle beyond their scope of service, they usually send you to the ER or say, go to UHS in the morning. Well, what this would do, Fighting Irish Care is it puts you in touch with a doctor who can prescribe things, who can diagnose, who can give you a treatment plan. If you want to talk now, that is to counselors around like, I'm anxious, I'm not feeling, I'm really struggling right now, I have a little bit of stress, I don't know what to do. It's that anxious moment or that place where you really need somebody to talk to. It's kind of that warm, kind of I just need somebody to have for a 50-minute session. Those are counselors, licensed counselors. And then health coaching is health and wellness coaching around stress management, around nutrition, around sleep. So that's somebody who will mentor you through a particular issue around health and wellness that you want to have information about. What you would then do is once you click that tile, whichever service you're looking for, you'll get a list of providers who are on at that moment. So it might be at 2 o'clock, you might have, 10 or 15. At 9 o'clock, you might have 30 or 40. And then you could click on each of those providers and find out who is Scott Harrington. What is his specialty? How long has he been practicing? The beauty of this, and I'm just going to be transparent, is we don't have a lot of providers of color, both as counselors or as physicians. And so for our students of color or marginalized populations, this is a great way to find someone who may be more in tune to some of the issues within particular marginalized or particular communities, or within particular specialties. So it's like, I want somebody who has more experience in this area. So what will happen is, depending upon where you're calling from or connecting from, you will get doctors or counselors within that state. And then what they'll do is they'll give you, as you're waiting in line, and they'll tell you actually how long you would have to wait. So this person's available now, this person has 5 minutes or 2 patients waiting. So you know how long you have to wait. You could give them a brief understanding of what you're calling about so they can make sure when they get on, they can maximize their time with you. And then what will happen is you would have basically a telehealth, a face-to-face. Now you can choose to turn off your camera, but they will have their camera on and you can have your camera on. And what you can do is you can do talk now, health coaching, and medical. Starting November 25th, you will have access to scheduled counseling. All students will have access to 12 counseling visits per year from now until the end of the year at no cost. Above the 12, you would have to have a cost. But what that does is that particularly if you want to see somebody ongoing, you would find a scheduled counselor and you'd be like, hey, I want to see that Christine Karen person. You like me? And we're like, okay, do you want to meet next week? Or do you want to meet in 2 days? In the meantime, if like you can't talk to Christine until the next week and you need to talk to somebody, you can always hit a talk now, okay? So it's akin to our drop-in. You can go to the UCC and drop in as many times as you want, but if there's a scheduled counsel that you want to see, you might have to wait a week or two. Same thing with Fighting Irish Care. So you will have access to a scheduled counselor during that winter break time, up to 12 visits, but those 12 visits go from November through the end of the year, June, okay? So if you have flu or you are anxious or stressed, Timely MD Fighting Irish Care has things available. What we're asking for you to do is to make it part of your conversation. I've put cards up in the back that you can take back to your residence halls that tell people how to sign up. You have to do a profile in order to get access. So what I would encourage people to do is do it now so that if you need help at 3 o'clock in the morning or 6 o'clock or 9 o'clock or 11 o'clock, you can automatically go to your tile, go to Fighting Irish Care, log in, get your tile, and then go. Where our hope is that students will see this as an extension of our services. UCC, UHS, that's done, will continue to be here both before and during and after break. There are times we're going to be closed for the holiday, but Fighting Irish Care will be there 24/7, 365 days, wherever you are. So if you go home to Ohio, but then end up visiting grandma in Nashville and then come back here early to visit somebody in Chicago, Fighting Irish Care will go with you wherever you go. And so it is our hope that this is a great extension of our services, that you see it as a way that Notre Dame continues to care for you, and you'll spread the word. I'm going to leave the cards up there. Take as many as you like. I'm happy to come to your residence halls and do a short presentation like this. Or you can always go to UHS or UCC and look up for Fighting Irish Care, and there's fact pages or other information on how to access this new services that we offer. Thank you for your time. I hope you utilize it and that you know that we are thinking about you, particularly during this challenging time, and really know that there has been a great challenges that you have overcome, and we're hoping that we can continue to serve you and care for you through these next couple of weeks, but also when you leave and go home. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Christine, for that comprehensive presentation of this incredibly important service. It's going to be a great asset, I think, for the entire student body over this upcoming break. So thanks so much again, and for the resources as well. See you, Christine. Okay, yeah, so be sure on your way out, guys, to grab those resources, pamphlets, distribute them to your residence hall communities. I know this could be a really great resource during finals for folks in the week ahead as well. Awesome. So we can transition to SO 2021-16, which is in order to amend the Constitution of the undergraduate student body to revise and consolidate Article 1 of the same, and I will turn it over to Thomas Davis.
Thank you, Sarah. Whereas Article 1, Sections 2C5 and 2C6 relate to constitutional duties of the student senators and Student Union Ethics Commission, respectively, instead of general provisions for the student union. Whereas Article 1, Section 3B is redundant of Section 2B and should be repealed. Whereas Article 1, Section 6 contradicts Article 1, Section 2C3 and is a confusing set of conditionals for the weight of abstentions that currently have no bearing on the general operation of the student union. Whereas Article 1 of the Student Union Constitution is titled General Provisions and contains those requirements and regulations which apply to all student union organizations, including the timeline for bylaw submission and review. Whereas Article 15 of the Student Union Constitution deals with transition and evaluation of the student union and contains a timeline of transition plan submission and review. which is generally applicable to all student union organizations. Whereas generally applicable regulations are general provisions by nature, therefore be it ordered. All those things mentioned in the whereas statements are covered through this. Matthew obviously isn't here, but he did all this work. This was supposed to be something we were going to do over the winter session, but Matthew was able to get it done beforehand. So you can thank him for that. This is great work. This is absolutely imperative to cleaning up the Constitution. So any questions?
Let's vote on that. All in favor? And all opposed? Okay, we are now in debate. And Mike Murakami once more. Okay, we can vote on that. All in favor? And all opposed? Okay, we are now in a final vote on ESER 2021-16. I believe we can just do a simple hand vote on this one. All in favor? And all opposed? Okay, exciting. Now Article 1 of our Constitution is clean and non-redundant. Thank you, Matthew Visner. Moving right along, this is ESER 2021-17, which is in order to amend the Constitution of the undergraduate student body to adopt concise and consolidated election regulation. Alas, this order is itself not as concise and consolidated. It's 6 pages, so Thomas is going to give a brief presentation.
Yes, this is important. Obviously, you are all elected officials for the most part, so I hope you have read this in the past, but I won't get my hopes up. I'm just kidding. I'm sorry. No one reads it. I'm sorry. The whole purpose of this, thank you, Aaron. The whole purpose of this project is to make sure that any new student or student officer of the student union entering through elections actually knows what the heck is going on. So this was an important project. So I'm glad we were able to get this done. I'm going to run through this as quickly as possible because 6 pages is a lot to mosey through in 2 days to make sure everyone's on the same page. And this is arguably one of the most important articles in the Constitution. So I just want to make sure you all know what you're approving. First and foremost, the bigger issue is endorsements. For those of you that have been around the student union for a little bit, you know that endorsements has been an issue that has gone back and forth. Ultimately, we didn't have the time to discuss the philosophical question of endorsements, but we did settle upon this. The Constitution used to read in under the endorsements clause, you can find it in there if you'd like. It used to say under subsection 4 and subsection 6, may not endorse any tickets or communicate any endorsements. We've added seeking endorsements to that in 6, so that there is no confusion that you can't go to these officials, you can't go to university offices asking for an endorsement. That would be a violation of election procedure. It also continues the stipulations that you cannot communicate one, even if you have been endorsed, but it also blocks the endorsement in the first place. So it covers all our bases there. If you're running for positions next year, let me tell you now, don't do anything that may communicate, seek, or procure an endorsement. So just stay on top of that. There's 2 ethical clauses in the Constitution that we have made more concise. The first one had to do with instructing individuals to engage in unethical behavior. Obviously, that's not cool. There's also the following clause, which has to do with you yourself as a candidate may not engage in unethical behavior. There's also a list of suggested types of unethical behavior. The election committee in the past has seen this as an issue. I can't go into the details there because it's mainly confidential, but we decided that it's best to remove that because we can't be weighting certain unethical behaviors against another in the Constitution. That's ultimately at the discretion of the election committee. So all the examples have been removed, but those 2 clauses about instructing and engaging in ethical behavior have been consolidated into something that's quite clear. Also, that term, we've added the discretion of the election committee to not only penalize for those instances, but to have the discretion to determine instances of those behavior. That's not any change in terms of practice, but it is a change in terms of constitutional duty. What was section K about blank votes, basically the discretion of the Google form that we use, that's been placed under the clause regarding how to validate votes via the Judicial Council President. The other big issue that we tried to make more clear is campaign financing. There's so many different types of elections that we have across the student union, all with very different campaign finance limits. So what we've done, let me pull up the new article. You'll see it's now section I. It lists all the behavior or all the instances of campaign finance that candidates need to be aware of. It has its own sub list of the specific limits for each of those races. It also has to do with any, throughout the Constitution in this section, there's many things about receipts and spending and what constitutes an expenditure, et cetera. That's all under campaign finance now. You'll also see that major issues like endorsements, social media, campaign finance, misconduct have all been sectioned out instead of before where it was kind of all over the place, cross-referencing articles. It was a mess. So hopefully that's more clear. Hopefully that will help you all out and whoever takes your seats in the future. At the end, in section 5, there was the last clause there that had to do if a position is unfilled and we can't find anyone fit or able to serve the office, that we can just leave it vacant. After talking with Matthew Bisner, that made no sense. As you know, we need to have these positions filled. There are a lot, but they are important in terms of representing everyone. So we removed that as kind of a escape clause because it doesn't really help anyone out. And we need these constituencies represented. Making sure I'm not looking over anything. One thing that I did overlook, and I'd really appreciate some sort of motion to amend this, in section H, social media, number 2 should be struck. That had to do with a clause about approvals for social media like Facebook buys, Twitter buys for ads. We decided to remove that. I just forgot to delete the entire clause. So, hey, Ricardo.
Hey, Thomas. Friendly motion to strike that part of the order as you specified.
That's huge. Thank you so much, Ricardo. You're the best. So yeah, that's gone. That's all I have. If you do have any questions, please raise them now. I know we've kind of been running through these types of amendments, but this one is kind of important. So if you do have any questions, let me know.
I think we all recall earlier in the semester, there was a bit of drama surrounding the senator leaving. And I think one of the things that got brought up was like the ethics committee was kind of able to analyze the situation as they saw fit. And one of the questions was whether or not that was like, I don't want to say like a breach of free speech, but like I wasn't sure if there was like anything set in place in terms of like a legislation, in terms of like how they went about approaching that. I wasn't sure like what that looked like from your perspective, or if this changes that.
So that's a great question. It gets at the same issue. Unfortunately, that's the Student Union Ethics Commission, and these issues would be handled by the Judicial Council Election Committee. That instance that you're referring to, any procedure from that would have been contained in Judicial Council bylaw, as well as what's now Article 13, referring to impeachment procedures and removal. That's handled under the Ethics Commission. The same type of ethical issues during campaigning would be brought up in a way through the election committee. But in both instances, it gets at the broader issue of what is unethical behavior. And in both instances, it's just up to the determination of those two committees in whatever. Procedurally, as far as taking votes, following parliamentary procedure, making sure that everyone, like both sides of the issue, have ample amount of time to speak in terms of either their allegation or defending themselves. All that's documented, and all that, from what I've seen, I can say has been followed very well. So I wouldn't have any worries from that side. But in terms of the procedure, all that is where it should be, and that is in bylaw. That's kind of the purpose of this project. What this does is for the election side of it, this grants the election committee the discretion and the duty to handle these issues, whereas the procedures are still up for, we do want to refine those, but that would be in bylaw because that's how this constitution got so large in the first place and so verbose, because too much was thrown at it. But those types of questions are the things that we do need to address at a judicial council level in terms of the rights of students when it comes to election misconduct allegations. And that's something that Matthew is looking forward to, and something hopefully we can get done next year in terms of having members of the student union and the student body who kind of serve as not attorneys, but can serve as someone who's knowledgeable of the rights of students in that instance. We had a plan for that. Obviously, with everything going on, we kind of got pushed back for that in terms of just time. But that is something that we would like to have going forward so that students do know, because it has been an issue where you walk into an election committee hearing and you don't really know what's going on. I'll acknowledge that. Everyone knows that. The observers hit at it pretty hard. We're trying to fix that. We want to be more transparent about the process, and this is the first step.
Great question and answer. Did I also see a hand from Ricardo earlier? Was your question answered?
It wasn't actually a question, it was a motion.
Okay, do we have any further questions? I don't want to miss those. Miles?
All right. I want to be careful asking this question because I know you know way more about the Constitution than I ever will. And I want to thank you for all the work you've done. The question is being at the beginning or even before the beginning of the semester, when you were talking about how our Constitution is 51 pages, the comparable universities like 15 pages, 13 pages. This is obviously a very important section of the Constitution. Why do you feel it is necessary? Like this would be more than a third of some constitutions. Why do you think every word of these 6 pages is absolutely necessary to our like newer condensed constitution, basically?
So that's the best question I could have anyone pose. And it gets towards another project that we're getting towards. Actually, none of this belongs in the Constitution. It belongs in an election code. And that's something that we are moving towards. All of the edits that we've done in this article have been recorded, and we cut and paste them, put them in another document that is sitting on my computer that will be used to build an election code, an election statute, basically election bylaw, so that someday down the road, hopefully for next election cycle, this article in the Constitution will not be here. It will be something on the Judicial Council website that any candidate, when they're considering running, will go look at that article. It explains all the procedure. It's amendable. That's the question we're addressing right now, is who has the power to amend the election bylaw? Is it kind of hand in hand between the Senate and the Judicial Council? Is it just the Senate? So that is exactly where we're trying to go. That was the goal for this semester, but with so much going on, we couldn't get there. What's important about what we've been able to do so far with this, and Nicole Marcinkus was last year, she was a senator here last year. She tasked this project for us. She did a fantastic job in terms of what are the things that absolutely can go now. And I think we've covered all our bases. And I think there are instances in here that we were a little bit hesitant to remove more in case that an instance of procedure such as a tie for class council, that's all in election results, section 5. We didn't want to get rid of that just yet, but hopefully it will be gone by next year in terms of some sort of election code that's outside the student union constitution. But thank you for that question.
Another stellar exchange. Did I see a Patrick Lee hand? Go for it.
I would say be very careful about how you go about that. In terms of giving advice to them in your capacity as someone who's gone through the process, I don't see any issue with that. But that's not me. That's up to the election committee. I would say in any instance of that, just be very, very hesitant. Be very clear with how you're giving that advice. But in terms of like running their campaign, that's definitely stay away from something like that. That is the very difficult part about the endorsements clause that we have in here. And that it raises a great issue because we'd like for students like you to be able to help out because you are familiar with the situation, you're familiar with the student union. Unfortunately, we did not have the time to address those types of issues, so we couldn't really touch the article because I don't like making amendments that don't have a good basis. So I won't get into the whole debate between should it be there, should not be there, but I would say just be careful with those issues with this upcoming cycle. And ultimately, what I wanted to say to everyone is, you've gone through the election cycle. You probably will go again through this election cycle for a different position next year. Please don't just pass this and forget about it. As you're going through elections this next semester, pay attention to instances like this where you feel like you'd like to help out, but you're kind of barred in a way. Because as I was mentioning, when we do move forward this new election code, we want to have those issues addressed in a way where everyone kind of feels represented. So don't just pass this and forget about it, but take questions like that and just bring them to us so that we can understand what you're feeling as a voting body.
Awesome. Great question. Very wise advice going forward. Ben Earhart.
In the event of the election committee needing to address unethical behavior, because this is only me speaking from what I've heard, and I'm not sure if this is the correct procedure. What role does the Senate play in addressing those election issues, like those instances of allegations, et cetera?
So once the election committee goes through the process of having a hearing, determining if there was a violation, levying a sanction, the alleged party can always appeal that sanction. And at that point in the process, there is a appeal hearing before the Senate, of which the Senate, by a certain voting margin, would decide if they'd like to not overturn it is a poor word, but send it back to the election committee for a reassessment. So yes, that is contained in there. It's always a possibility. I actually believe it's in the Senate article. So the Senate kind of plays the overarching role of if something goes wrong. Now there has to be some sort of procedural issue for it to go before the Senate. And you never really know. You can't predict when those things happen. They just happen. So there is the possibility that Senate would hear something like that. It has happened in the past. But as far as the details of procedure, it is outlined in the Constitution. And if we were to have to do it, there is a lot of just procedure that comes from how we would handle a Senate meeting, how we would handle parliamentary procedure, and just doing it in action. There's no real solid plan. That is something that I would like to get done at some point.
Another excellent question. Anyone else have anything that they're wondering? Michael Murakami. All right, we can vote on that. All in favor? And all opposed? Great, we are now in debate over SO 2021-17. Would anyone like to raise a point of debate? Aaron.
Hello, everyone. I'll keep it brief. As someone who's been through too many elections in my time at Notre Dame, I am glad that Thomas addressed the endorsements issue, because this is something that has been, I think, really bugging me for the past few years, I'd say. And first and foremost, definitely pass this. This is incredibly necessary and incredible work. But I do want to encourage y'all to think deeply on the endorsements issue. I think the voice of senators especially is important in the race, especially for student body president in a role that really does take on an incredible amount of policy work. And I really do think that your voice is missing in that debate. And I think that's something that's very important. And it's something that I think is unfortunate that we're gonna have to put up with that for another year. Again, it doesn't affect me at all because, I'm on my way out. But I think it's something that y'all should think critically as you move forward. And again, obviously this is, hopefully this goes through today and we will still have that, endorsement ban from y'all specifically in the next cycle, but please do revisit this. I want to encourage y'all to do that because I think it's very important to get your voices heard as you are, especially, some of the more knowledgeable people on this campus about what's going on in student life and campus policy. But at the end of the day, I do think this is a great Senate order and amendment. So I want to thank Matthew and Thomas for your work on this.
Awesome. Thanks for that contribution, Aaron. Do we have any other further points of debate that folks want to raise? Yeah, Madison. All right, let's vote on that. Great. And we can now enter into our official vote on, oh, okay. We're going to do a form. Thomas wants to do a form on SO 2021-17. Okay, it looks like that form is officially live. Oh, it is being linked. Ooh, 30 seconds, guys. Get those votes in, guys. Voting members, exercise your rights. Folks on Zoom, if you haven't voted, please do so. Okay, we have hit our magic number. Fabulous. It passes with a vote of 26-1, am I correct? 26-1. Thank you all so much. And when we come back together in, my goodness, 11 weeks, we will be hearing SO 2021-18, which is an order to amend the constitution of the undergraduate student body to revise the class councils. I would love to hear any announcements that you guys may have because I will miss you. Okay. Any announcements? Marie.
Cafe tonight, the last one. It's Christmas themed because why not? And we're gonna have insomnia cookies there all library long.
Sounds fabulous. If you guys haven't gone to Thankful Fest, I would highly recommend it. The food is phenomenal. And Chris was taking a bunch of pictures. So fun. Any more announcements before Michael Murakami adjourns us? Oh, Thomas has one.
Green Dot, if you haven't been Green Dot trained, you should have gotten my email. You now have 3 opportunities to get Green Dot trained virtually after finals, which is huge, and before Christmas, after Thanksgiving, before Christmas. So please do that if you would like to be a senator next semester.
Nice. My 2 things. 1, if you guys have any concerns whatsoever over the winter break, please do reach out to us so we can bring those to the student advisory group for campus reopening. Additionally, I would just like to make it clear that we have no Senate obligations over winter break or the January term, but we will be coming back together in the beautiful month of February, right after Rachel Ingalls' birthday. So that will be the next time we all reconvene together. Any other announcements, Michael? Yeah. Would you like to say something? Okay, yes, we can do an official vote on a recess if you would like. I will smile upon a motion to recess us until the first week of February. Would you like to make that motion, Michael Murakami? All right, I hear that second. First week of the academic term in the spring semester would be the language. Thank you for that clarifying point. Can I hear that one seconded? Madison, you have your hand.
Am I able to raise a point of debate? Yeah, so my only concern is that if for some reason, I think Sam said that there's a rumor about it getting pushed back, and then we have to fix the election stuff, because that already, you know what I'm saying? I'm a little concerned about not being able to call an emergency meeting in the case that.
Oh, this is definitely not saying that we can't call an emergency meeting, Madison. That is always on the table. If 5 senators come together and want to call an emergency meeting, you have every right to do so.
So
I
can I
forget
jump
about
in?
this clause. Yes, Thomas, explain the
So
clause.
you may recall last time we had a nice motion to make a recess until that time or until the chair and the advisor determined that a meeting would be necessary.
So if we're in recess, 5 senators come together, you come to me and Karen, you petition us. We're like, yeah, we're in crisis. This is important. Karen and I are like, yes, let's call the meeting.
And actually, even without 5 senators, the decision is Sarah and mine to call the Senate back together. That was how we did it last time.
So yes, I mean, Karen and I could have fun and we could just call you all together. Okay, now that we have that clarified, Michael, would you like to make a revised motion? Yes, with that. Beautifully phrased. We finally got there. Thank you all so much. Let's vote on that. Let's hear a second for that. I'm already rusty, guys. Let's enter a debate on that. Raise a point of debate, Isabella. Okay, we can now enter a vote on that. Thomas, do you feel a form is necessary or can they put their hands? We're voting on closing the debate. What did you say? Hand is fine. Okay, let's close the debate. Let's vote on that. Okay, hands down. We can now enter an official vote on Senate recess. All in favor? Okay, and all opposed. Thank you all for bearing with me. Have a beautiful winter break and best of luck on your finals.